Hmm?
Good morning. This is Glenn Greenidge and Tom Pope, and today's discussion is around the 25% indoor dining that's about to open up next week in New York City. Some of the other places it's opened up already. I think one of the issues that the restaurants are pushing back on is that 25% capacity for indoor dining is not going to be enough to bring them back. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Um, well, I have, well, first, why don't we explain maybe, since you're involved with Jamaica and Southeast Queens, um, how many restaurants would you say exist in that area compared with the rest of the city?
Well, I don't know that we have that kind of density. However, what I will say is that we have a lot of restaurants that are mostly takeout, um, but do have some dining inside. Um, you're talking about maybe two or three tables, five tables the max. So if you're at 25%, you're talking about maybe one table or so. So you cripple the capacity for anybody to sit down.
So, are you saying the restaurants in this area tend to be smaller than restaurants in other parts of the city?
Yeah, along the not so busy corridors. So, for example, Jamaica Avenue, Hillside Avenue, Merrick Boulevard, Linden Boulevard tends to have some bigger type restaurants. Um, Baisley Boulevard, um, but not necessarily. What I would say is that the majority of restaurants are smaller, um, maybe seating uh, 10, 12 tables, small tables, so on and so forth. So when you look at the um, capacity in terms of what can be brought in, and then you begin to think about they've already had a 3 month, 4 month hiatus in terms of no money coming in, trying to catch up. Um, it's going to propose an economic problem. Now, obviously we've got to take into consideration the social distancing and that we're still in a full-blown pandemic as well. So so it's kind of you know, the restaurant tours in one hand and then the health of the community and the neighborhood on the other. No easy answer.
Well, you asked me about how I feel about this, and I think the very framework of the intro with this look at 25% shows a certain limitation set by policies to force us into looking at 25%. I'm saying this because I'm comparing this social structure with the rest of the world. We had countries like Denmark where the government was actually lending money to people on a constant basis, and that included the consumer as well as the store owner. If we had a setup like that in America, the 25% would be meaningless because the restaurant would be getting funds. The consumer would be getting funds. The consumer could even go into a restaurant and maybe have a cup of coffee and a dessert without taking away income for that position of that one table or whatever. Um, the flow of funding from the government would keep both consumer and retailer in business. But we don't have that. And because of this, we end up with this imposed structure of facing this problem of the 25%.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's a policy decision. Um, why not 30%? Why not 40%? Why not 50%? Um, and when you look at it, it's a flat policy, but it's not appropriate for every business. You've got some bigger establishments, um, for example, a BBQs that's got probably 30, maybe even 40,000 square feet of space, restaurant space, indoor and outdoor, that can accommodate the 25% very readily inside because they've got a huge outside capacity. And so the outside capacity makes up for what they're missing on the inside. But you don't have, you look at the smaller shops that Beijing Dumpling House or Nutripan, who has maybe 8 or 9, don't have the big space outside, so they can get maybe 5 or 6 tables outside, and we're talking about maybe another 3 or 4 indoor. And then here's the other practicality of it: the weather is already starting to change, and so what are the outdoor dining options are going to become limited. So unless you're prepared to do heating and other kinds of things, which of course is additional money, additional uh, oversight, you probably have to have an electrician come in and so forth. So you're talking about monies again for a small infrastructure. So we're not talking about a huge amount of income that's going to be accessible by having a heated space. And how long are we going to be able to even in the heated space feel comfortable dining outside? So we're looking at a feasibility. Yes, 25% sounds like a plan of action, but it's not right for everybody. And I think that that's what's missing.
Let me add another factor into this mix. Hypothetical family, Tyrone and Deidre, both have lost their jobs, so have limited income, or they're just barely making ends meet. Of course, they don't have the money for a restaurant. What are they going to do if they don't pick up something from the supermarket? Maybe they'll go to a fast food place, and they'll do this more often. Well, now comes a time, maybe just within a month or so, one of them discovers high blood pressure or another problem
Right.
with health. Uh, we can't deal with it. We don't have a plan. We don't have uh, money coming in to have insurance for the healthcare. We'll have to ignore the problem. So at some point, that's going to reflect on society, the loss of 2 individuals. So this is another element in the looking at the cost. Now, if we had a situation with society decided to pay Deidre and Tyrone on a weekly basis, plus the restaurateur, maybe Deidre and Tyrone would be able to go to a restaurant instead of a fast food place, and that maybe they'd have better food.
Absolutely. Without a doubt, I think that anytime we're trending down economically, we're also now cutting corners around healthcare, around any of the other things to keep us well. You can't be well if you're eating off of fast food on a consistent basis. That's not going to keep you well. That is going to cause high blood pressure, diabetes, and some of the other ailments that are associated with it, heart attacks and so forth. Um, so we've got an economic issue both for the clients, the potential clients, as well as the business. And right now, doesn't look like we've got a lot of hope in terms of how those restaurants are going to get back on track. And unfortunately, I feel like we're going to lose quite a bit of them because of not being able to sustain themselves. They some of them have received some of the stimulus, but the stimulus lasts but so long, and it's not enough to sustain them for more than a month or two.
Now, I have to mention the aspect of who's going to pay for this, because we might have many viewers who would ask, well, if Tom has this idea of society giving a constant flow of funding to the restaurant, to the diner, where will the money come from? And actually, this type of question bothers me, because if we had to face a war, would we ask, where is the money coming from?
No, we just crank it out.
When we take a look at the dollars coming into Steve Bezos or people like him, why don't we ask the question, we have a lot of money in that area, why can't there be some idea of contribution from that area? Imagine a scene where the restaurateur doesn't have to worry about supplies for an extended period. That means he doesn't have to be concerned with the money he might be losing with 25% or 30% because of social distancing. He's still in business. The consumer has the chance to go to his establishment because the consumer is getting dollars from society. Who will that hurt? Will it hurt the supplier of the restaurant? Not if we consider all of the money in play in other areas, like the money that's going to the people who own Walmart or Amazon.
Yeah, it's there's a sense of what's missing is a sense of society holistically looking from it from a holistic standpoint, and it's needs to be funded, and who's making money seems to be the one that should be funding it, since that they're actually benefiting from the pandemic, whereas so many other people are being hurt by the pandemic. Would be a great opportunity to give back to those folks who are in need at this point in time for extended period of time. So, it's interesting concept. I don't know that our elected officials are on the same page around that, but it certainly would make a difference for the entire economy. And that's the thing. If you're looking at the whole economy, that makes sense. And why wouldn't you do it? But we also know that there are some political ramifications and purses that are lobbying against the equanimity of the masses and the overall economy.
And yet we didn't have that same mentality when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. We had a situation where everything changed in terms of what was being made for the sake of fighting the war, and people's income were established, everyone pulled together. And we didn't have the idea that, well, we have to limit a certain amount of funding so that certain heads of corporations could be making $1 billion in a bonus.
I know. I mean, it when you think about it, it kind of seems kind of trite that it would come down to that, but that's the reality of where we are and what we're up to at this point in time.
I don't know what we can offer people as a solution at the moment. What do you think?
Well, my thing, especially around restaurants, but in small business in general, is to build up your online presence, to really go after the online revenues. If you haven't, start. If you have, increase it as best you can. This coronavirus is not going away anytime soon. And as a business owner, you've got to adapt and plan your revenue streams and extending or creating additional revenue streams makes sense at this point in time.
One possible way of looking at a solution, long-range approach, if we do like some of the ideas I've suggested, it might be important to join your local Democratic club and mention these ideas because you might find some support and you might find some opposition by some centrist Democrats. Although I would say that the progressive ideas are the real center of America. But the more we have these ideas in action in local community politics, the more we'll be able to change the policies.
Absolutely. Well, this is Tom and Glenn signing off. You have a very good week.
And if you enjoyed what you've seen, let us know through Facebook at Community and Social Change Facebook.
Great. Thank you.